So you've seen what this problem does. If I have this, I don't have any whole numbers to deal with, so I leave it as a 4. The x to the second, and then the bottom is x to the fourth. That's the subtraction part. So 2 subtract 4 gives me x to the negative 2. I'm going to change that now. That'll be the new lesson. Let me go through this first. This one's the multiplication, so I have a 1 here. 2 to the first to the power of the 2 becomes 2 to the second. And then the negative 1 times the 2 becomes x to the negative 2. Y squared to the 2 becomes y to the fourth. I'm not done as of today's lesson. This one right here, there's your addition when it's side by side like that. So first we multiply the whole numbers. 3 times 2 gives me the 6. My x squared times my x to the fifth, I add those, and it becomes x to the seventh. And then y to the fourth times y to the negative 2, I add those, and it becomes y to the second. Okay, now you have this one, you've seen this one before. 3 to the fourth over 3 to the fifth, when it's above it like that, that's the subtraction one. I want to expand it and show you what it would normally look like. 3 to the fourth over 3 to the fifth. If it were a normal problem, you could cancel things out. So this 3 over 3 cancels out to be a 1. This 3 over 3 cancels, this cancels, this cancels. So we're left with, on the top is a 1, and the bottom is a 3. Now before, we would see this answer as 3 to the negative 1, because we subtracted them. So the 4 subtract 5 is the negative 1. So now, here's the new lesson. When you have the negative 1, it has to change locations. So that's the fraction, if we were to change it to a fraction. 3 to the negative 1 over 1 becomes, the 3 goes into the bottom. So let's go back up to this problem. The positives stay where they are, and the negatives change. So I keep this. The 4 is positive, so I keep it. And then the x moves to the bottom, and the exponent becomes positive. So here I have this one. 2 squared becomes 4. X to the negative 2, that goes to the bottom and becomes positive. And then the y4 stays on top. So here's this one. I don't have a single negative, so they stay. And then go back down to this one. The answer was 3 to the negative 1. So that one becomes, there was nothing on the top. That's where the 1 comes in. To make something a fraction, you always put it as a 1. And then the 3 goes to the bottom. A couple more examples. 4 divided by 4 is 1. So I'll leave that answer the 1. And then negative 2 subtract 5. So that becomes your negative 7. And then y to the fifth subtract the y to the sixth. So that becomes y to the negative 1. And then z to the negative 10th subtract negative 10. That becomes your 0. So now I have to take all those and simplify it. So the negatives move positions, so they go to the bottom. So what's left on the top is this 1. So it becomes 1 over that x to the negative 7 goes down below, and it becomes positive. That y to the negative 1 goes down below, and then x to the 0, or z to the 0, any number to the 0 becomes 1, so it just disappears. So that's your final answer. How about this one? So I take those, and I need to add them because they're side by side. So the x to the 3 times x to the negative 2, I add those, it becomes x to the 1, y to the second plus the negative 4 becomes the negative 2, so y to the negative 2, I move them, x to the first over y to the 2.